want to talk about esports. And specifically like esports professionals versus normal sports athletes, professionals, and the societal views of them and our views of them, and just discussion there. What do you guys think?
So I can actually piss off a lot of people here. I don't think that they're athletes at all.
Okay.
I think athlete would be, you have to work out and actually exert yourself physically, and I don't think that this is from someone that, makes money playing video games. I don't think you can say
at a high level though.
Yeah.
No, but
it's different.
even then, like I don't even call it a sport. I think it's a competitive game.
Esports.
What I will say is this: even in sports, there's some people who have to just have natural talent and are just better than others, and that is actually true here as well.
No, and I agree.
And you
100%.
have to realize that there's a natural talent some people have. Like they have better hand-eye coordination, better actions per minute.
And reflexes are crazy.
You're
and
absolutely
they actually
right.
have to keep training those to keep them sharp.
They still.
So you realize they do have to keep practicing that.
No, and I'm
and
aware.
that takes training.
I just don't.
So I would
consider
actually
it a sport.
argue they are athletes and they do deserve some respect.
Yeah.
Assume that they keep themselves up and actually dedicate themselves to their craft.
Yeah.
I just don't see them as athletes, and I don't see it as a sport.
Well, that's your
e-sport. It's not the same thing.
Well, it has the word sport in it. I don't consider, and I get this is gonna get some hate too. I don't consider NASCAR drivers like they.
That actually takes ridiculous.
I know it takes like endurance and stuff, but I don't know. I feel like
if it isn't like football or basketball, he doesn't believe it's a sport.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean you got like football, basketball, baseball, hockey, lacrosse, soccer, like the ones.
Golf.
That's borderline for me.
See, and that's
See,
your definition
that's
of
where
sports
your,
is not correct.
That's where your argument goes downhill, though.
Yeah, because literally, like all of those, like NASCAR, golf, like those are sports. Just because
they are
not because they're just not because they're getting jacked and like working out 24/7 and doing drills 24/7. Like that's that's obviously a side of sports with football and basketball. And being a sports guy myself and loving basketball and football, like. That is definitely
is
sports.
There competition? That's the big question.
Exactly, and that's like golf is a sport. Like they have to work out. They have to golf constantly to be good at the game. NASCAR, it is insane to drive one of those cars. Like it looks easy, and like oh, I'm driving down the street, I can do this. Like
it's
it is
just seconds of reaction time.
Exactly.
To know what you have to do and how to do it.
Oh yeah,
correctly.
absolutely.
And then
the
even
same
absolutely.
thing in video games.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
saying it takes the same fortitude sometimes. Or athletic or like physical ability. That's not what I'm saying.
Exactly.
But it takes the same amount of effort given and to put it into it to create your talent and cultivate that, and the same amount of maybe will or desire in that scheme of things, and because it's a competition at a very, very high level.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, so I think it obviously takes skill. It is competitive. But I think there's a difference between athletes and gamers. I think there's a difference. I don't know.
Well, there is. Not all gamers are esports athletes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
consider
separate
myself
them.
a gamer.
I think
there's even a pretty decent one.
In my mind, though, there's a huge difference between people that play professional sports versus people that play competitive games for a living. I see that as a huge difference. I don't think it takes the same. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like at that point you can kind of start getting into like, okay, some sports aren't actual sports. Like an example of that is when you get into like the fighting scene, boxing and MMA.
That's absolutely a sport.
Boxing, the Floyd Mayweather would get destroyed by any MMA fighter probably. Like, it's just a completely different game. But it's not taking away from Floyd Mayweather. He's an incredible boxer.
It's
one
of the greatest of all time.
Different training stuff, and it's not easier or harder. It's just a different game.
How much effort does it take?
And that's And when you look at
To
esports
reach that
nowadays,
level.
Not anywhere near the same amount of level.
You're out of your mind if you don't think so.
No, I'm saying it's not even close to the gaming scene. I don't think you can compare a professional boxer to someone that plays Counter.
The amount of hours they put into
and absolute dedication.
Obviously, the training is completely different, and the training is more strenuous.
Physical training, and more like technical training as completely different things, and one is greater than the other because it requires physical prowess.
See, and I think that's athletic then. We're going with esports and
Electronic athletes.
Yeah.
Esports athletes.
see, and I don't think you can have the word athlete in that. That's
It is, though.
It is.
It
And
depends
with
on
good
your
reason.
definition of athlete.
not with my definition then.
Oh, that's fine.
That's-
That's what we're
that's
talking
what we're
about,
discussing.
Yeah,
So-
I know. That's what you guys are just trying to shoot me down with every corner. That's all I'm saying. I
Well,
just,
you threw out your opinion and then we countered.
It's
see,
true.
I don't think it's the same at all. I feel like with
That's okay.
with boxers and MMA fighters and any athlete that has to exert themselves physically, and you're putting blood, sweat, and tears into the sport, I don't think they're on the same level at all as someone that sits at a desk and flicks a mouse.
Controller.
Okay, not many professional.
A lot of first-person shooters
Yeah.
are console.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess there you go. Either way, I
No.
don't see it as anywhere close to being the same thing. I think it takes a high level of skill. It takes a lot of training, like you said, it takes a lot of practice. I just don't see it as a sport.
What does
What's a
football
sport?
take?
Yeah. What is a sport?
A lot of training and a high level of, understanding of that sport.
Physical exertion of training yourself. I don't think that's really.
So your definition purely is just physical.
Yeah.
That's all you're
That's
getting.
all you're considering for sports. It has to be physical.
I think when you're playing a high end game, like any sport you'd see on TV, any of the big sports that people
What
know.
about purely mental sports, like chess? That's considered a sport, an Olympic
Yeah.
sport.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, and in my mind, that's just more of it can be more of a high end game. It's not.
You think that doesn't take the technical prowess more so than probably most physical sports?
See, I
amount
think
of
I think
knowledge-
sport as physically. I don't think and
Sure.
yes, mental as well. Like it has to take both of them.
Yeah.
Obviously you got to think about the football player you're going to run. You got to think
There's
about
intangibles.
like there's a lot of in my mind there's a lot of different ways you could go about this. I think you get sports like football, baseball, soccer, hockey, basketball, like anything. I think that's one category that takes the physical and mental to the utmost extreme to play professionally, and then you get
Occasionally.
well, I'd say all the time.
I don't know.
I don't
There's some
think-
dumb
I don't
football
think-
players out there.
Well, there's dumb football players, but they have the mental fortitude to have the work ethic to
Or just instinctual through
last in the league.
repetition. But
Well, I mean, even then, that takes even repeating the same thing over and over is going to take
Yeah.
some sort of mental fortitude. I don't know. Because I obviously never made it never made it past high school football.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that, I wouldn't say, the esports team at the high school is anywhere close to being like the same athletic. Like, yeah, they both have their place, but it's not like I wouldn't consider them to be athletes when they just play the games. That I don't know.
or esports athletes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not an athlete though.
But it's
I-
in the name.
It's in the
I
name.
know it's in the name, but I feel like it's one of
You
those
just
things.
don't
That's,
hold them to the same.
I think it's mislabeled.
Okay. I think your definition is mislabeled.
Yeah.
I would agree with what he
I
just
understand
said
what you're
myself,
saying, and I
but-
understand why you're saying it. But you think some of that is because it's so new as well?
See, I wouldn't even say because it's so new. I think even in 20, 30 years, I'd be thinking the same thing. Does
don't
it have
think
its
so,
place? Yes, sure. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch.
Sure,
Because you're watching these players that I'll never be able to be that good at games, and I know that I suck at every game I play.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think you can consider them to be athletes.
Okay.
I feel
Well,
like,
it's valid. I'm just
and that's what I'm saying. Like I can consider it to be high level gaming. I don't consider it to be high level sport.
Well,
Is-
then that's where
Yeah.
we kind of differ.
And
Between
when
the
you-
definition of what a sport is,
And when you
Yeah.
say e-sport, and I get that it's electronic,
it just means it's digital, but it's the same thing.
yes,
It's
but
digital.
I don't see it as having the same definition to the word sport.
I can get you on your definition for athlete. I can.
Yeah.
I
I-
can't get you on your definition for sport though. That's where you fall off. I think.
Yeah, because the definition, I just looked it up, what the definition of sport is, and it says, a sport is generally recognized as a system of activities based in physical athleticism or physical dexterity, with major competitions such as the Olympic Games admitting only sports meeting this definition. And dexterity is literally, if you look at it, it's fine motor skills and the coordination of small muscles and movement with the eyes, usually involving the synchronization of hands and fingers. So.
And how would you define gaming?
That's what that is.
See,
So from a actual definition of the, like it,
So you're
dictionary.
saying a thief in Skyrim isn't the same as a warrior in Skyrim. That dexterity stat is through the roof, man.
See, I don't consider them to be
So-
athletes. I don't consider that to be sports. I think high level gaming is not the same thing as a
I
sport.
think it's the exact same
Yeah,
thing as a
it
sport.
It is actually a sport, so.
The competitiveness, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
But, okay.
I mean,
moving
you're
on from that
entitled to
point.
your opinion, so.
So, we've understood each other on that side. Like
Yeah.
we've gotten to
Mhm.
what we think on that.
Mhm.
So, also before I say that, I want you to look up an interview with Rick Fox. You know who Rick Fox is? Was on the Lakers Hall of Famer. I think he's Hall of Famer.
Okay.
NBA player.
Okay.
Um,
For some reason, my mind went
He has
Ric
an
Flair,
interview with,
and I was like, "That's obviously not the
with
same."
Hector Rodriguez, the CEO of Optic Gaming.
Okay.
Fantastic interview, and he'll go into depth on what he believes through the esports and regular sports, intermingling type thing. Really good. Check that out if you want. But okay, so what do you think for professionals getting paid?
Go for it.
What do you think relatives though?
I think
As in what?
So let's say this. What's the largest NFL contract right now? Is it still Mahomes?
I think so.
Probably, yeah.
What, 200 million or something like that?
Something stupid, yeah.
I agree. That's very stupid for someone who just throws a ball around in our basic, verbs and nouns right there. He
Oh,
just
this year he's
throws-
doing
He
horrible.
just throws a ball around. Is that worth $250 million?
Okay, so here, from my bank account perspective, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at the amount of money that he brings in to that
That's
team and to
where
that
it all
league,
comes from.
That's
then
exactly what
yes.
it is.
So
Relative, right?
So that's what I'm
So I
saying.
see that.
Yes. So they deserve to get paid relative to what they bring in. I mean, that's the same thing you could say with the NBA and the WNBA. NBA contracts are massive. Like they're some
Yeah.
of the biggest.
WNBA doesn't make crap.
And that's
Doesn't
that's the
make
thing.
The
The
NBA keeps
WNBA
that alive.
and the WNBA makes literally nothing. Oh, not literally nothing, but
It's not a
you
wage
know
gap,
what I
guys.
mean.
No.
Like it. So the contracts are
Sure.
huge. Like they're vastly different. So that makes sense though because
Uh-huh.
they don't bring in the same amount of money.
I agree
Not even
completely.
So
close.
pay them relative to the same amount of money that they bring in. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about the games and stuff, like yeah, sure, pay them for what.
So
they bring
right
in.
now, let's just throw in the Call of Duty League.
okay,
Yeah.
It's pretty new. It's got a couple, I think 3 years now, maybe 2 or 3 years now. It's been its huge thing. Top tier players are getting, I think the bare minimum, like the minimum wage for them is $50K a year. Top tier players are getting upwards of $300K. People are just like scoffing at that. That's unbelievable. You play a video game and you get paid that.
see, and
What's your view on that thought?
I'm fine with that, but I'm
Okay.
also a Twitch streamer.
Sure.
I make money in games in a different way.
Mhm.
I'm not getting the contracts or whatever, but I
Sure.
mean it's still I make money playing games, right? And that's
Yeah.
so I understand that. So that's fine to me. And honestly, if they get paid more, they get paid more. Good for them.
Yeah.
Like that's great.
And it's only going to go up.
It is
Yeah.
only going to
It's
go
only
up.
going to get bigger.
The only thing you're going to hear an argument from me is when you call them athletes, and that's going to be my argument.
Okay,
like
that's
that,
fine argument.
I still think they deserve to make as much money as they
Sports
bring
is
in.
gonna-
Yeah.
I'll disagree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, but either way, I mean that's not the
Sure.
question here. So yeah, I think it's fine. Let them make their money.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
find
see an
it
issue.
laughable that people are like, wow, you play video games and you're getting paid money.
Yeah.
When,
well, I mean,
when
It's an old
down
school
to brass facts,
idea.
you're throwing around an inflatable ball for
Yeah.
lots of money.
I think it's just it's an old
Like-
school mentality. It's like
And I love
you know,
sports, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
oh, I think we all do here, except for
No,
Weston.
Weston
I don't
doesn't
care
care
about
That's why I
but
said except for
It's
Weston.
it's just
I-
the old school
I
mentality.
agree with you.
Like
I know.
people just
it's
don't
new.
understand.
People hate that new stuff.
Yeah, and it's the idea that people don't understand how much video games mean now and like how influential they are in
Right.
society, and that I wouldn't argue with you at all that saying esports it puts as much effort into as like or like the same amount and same level as like NFL professionals do because obviously
They
that's
do.
not the case. like in the same sense of like they don't work out as much, and like they don't do the same things, and like they don't
physically physical effort.
Yes,
maybe
exactly.
Effort
But
in general, absolutely.
effort in general, I'd say yes. But at the same time, like
look at what they have to do daily.
I get that they have to practice daily, and they do skills
over full-time job of practicing the game that they're trying to master.
See, and I get that. I don't know if it's the same. Like with NFL athletes, they wake up early, they watch their diet, they work out, they review film,
and
they go do all
Esports
this.
do the exact same
They do
thing.
those exact same things.
exactly, they do.
They actually do.
I still think it's the same amount of physical exertion, or even
physical, right there. That's
Yeah,
what you're
it's
saying.
That's
not
all
physical.
you're
You're stuck
thinking.
on that. You're
Yeah.
stuck
You're
on that.
stuck on
because I'm
physical.
thinking with the phrase athlete, and that's not.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the phrase sports.
Just sports.
Exactly.
And if you're, what are you called if you are, top tier something, a person that plays sports?
An athlete.
Usually it's called an athlete.
Yeah.
They kind of go hand in hand. So if you come up with another name for it, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
But that's just what it goes with it,
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I get that's where they, the terms are mingled together. I can't consider them athletes. I don't know. I have friends that are ex-professional gamers. Like they used to play competitively. That was their job, right? I would tell them to their face, yeah, like that's cool, but I wouldn't say you're an athlete.
That's fine.
Like
you can believe that. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
fine.
It's up to you to decide there in the video watchers. But, yes,
I'm going to get so much hate in the comments on this.
it's all right.
You get hate anyway.
You can believe what you want.
You can't win.
No one can fault you for that.
That's true.
But I just find it funny that we're also, like, the U.S. is so like, one-viewed and doesn't look out at the rest of the world. Like, you're Patrick Mahomes
Yeah.
is, like, nothing compared to, like, League of Legends top-tier players in Korea. Like, the Super Bowl, the biggest watched event in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worlds, League of Legends every year dwarfs Super Bowl
Yeah.
viewing.
Well, I think that's also, though, because, the Super Bowl is such an Americanized thing, and the NFL is...
That's why I said we're so centric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, so many people around the world play League, so, I mean, I get that.
Yeah. People don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that.
Like, those athletes, those players, for Jordan.
Thank you.
Are literally celebrities in their own countries.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean,
they
as they
make
should
millions upon millions of dollars.
be. I mean, and I'm not going to
Like,
argue
it's
that.
just how much does that entertainment mean to watchers and viewers? Like, how much are you going to bring in? How many people are going to be watching?
Yep.
That's really what dictates your pay a lot of the time.
Yep. As it should.
As it should. I agree. But it's only going to get bigger, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to become way more mainstream. It already has in the last 5 years. It's been crazy. But I think in the next, I don't know, definitely 50, maybe 25, 30, it will be right up there with normal sports.
Yeah. I agree.
See, and I'm not going to argue that one bit. I think it will.
I think
I
it'll be
mean,
right up
it's
there.
taking off. And when you brought up the pay, like, let them make as much money as they bring in,
All right.
Like,
Put
everyone,
the board in.
if you bring in X amount of dollars, you should make this amount, like, that's exactly how it should be. All the people that are complaining about, like Logan said, it's the old school mentality.
Okay.
For those that are complaining, like, oh, yeah, well, you're making $300,000 a year playing a video game. That's stupid. It's like, well, I mean, they're providing entertainment to people, and they're bringing in X amount of money. It's no different than, oh, you make $50,000 an episode when all you do is pretend to be someone on a TV show. I mean, it's like, like they're making X amount of money on the TV show, and they're good at what they do. They're good actors, and that's why they get paid for it. If it's so easy, then you go act. If it's so easy, then you go do it.
Some of them aren't good actors, though.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, I'm not going to... Yeah, that's true. Some of them are not good actors at all, or actresses at all, but they're hot, so it doesn't matter. That's the mindset of
I don't
a lot of
know. Does that make their acting better?
No, it does not, but they get paid more because more people will want to watch them because
And
they're
also,
attractive.
some of their material is just terrible, and it's not their fault. They have to play that person.
Yeah.
But that's just...
Yeah, writing
that's
has a lot
off
to
the
do with
topic,
it.
But yes.
Yes.
So
Sure.
I got
I
a
just find
question.
it's
I got a
interesting.
question for Jordan though. So, if you don't consider like esports as sports, right? Then why does the Timberwolves and these NBA teams that have esports teams call them esports?
Because that's what the common phrase of it is. Everyone calls it esports. Now, just because I don't consider it
For what
a
reason?
Yeah, why would they call it?
Why would they call it that if it wasn't?
because
Professional
because the
sports
word
team.
sports is more attractive to people who don't like. They're gonna be it's an esports. So
Not necessarily. It does not attract people like me.
Exactly.
That's true. Weston
Okay,
hates
people
sports.
like you. That's true. But I mean, the people
And
that,
I am not just alone.
Yeah,
Okay,
like,
there
look,
are many like me.
The
in
E
this.
part of that will attract you. So they,
Yeah,
they
but-
take.
Not necessarily.
I would say professional gaming event is more.
It's going to be much more attractive.
Yeah, because for people like Weston that could care less about your traditional sports like football and basketball, it's like, oh, it's sports. Like, I don't care.
And honestly,
But then-
we're the more likely draw
Exactly.
over those who actually do watch athletic
Exactly.
sports, as you would call them.
See, I think that's just a more common name. So I don't think that that's what people know it as now. So they're not going to say, oh, yeah, check out our professional gaming team. Because that's actually a longer name. It doesn't sound as good.
But it makes more sense if
Esport
sports doesn't
sounds,
fit.
it sounds good when you say esport.
Not necessarily.
I think it does. I think it makes it sound more attractive.
I
Yeah,
just
but
think-
you're also somebody who enjoys the physical sports.
That's
like
true.
Football and basketball. and
That
those.
is very true.
I actually don't like any of those, so it's less attractive for me.
So when he brings up the question, like, why do you think they call it that? I think it's just because it's more, like, the word sport's going to get more people. It's more commonly known. It's more of a marketing thing, I think, than anything to say sport.
Or it could be a sport.
Or it's just a sport.
Yeah. Which by
I think the
definition,
definition.
by definition,
I think
it is.
you have something like you can definitely argue for sure your athlete argument. Like that's
yeah,
for sure
I would
an
agree with that
argument.
too. But if we look
I
at the
think
definition
if we're
of
going
sport,
about what a sport's definition is, I think you're less likely to win that argument.
See, but then if you go with this way, too, you got to stop making that noise. It's going to be really loud on the recording.
He just does it again.
I know, as he does it
He just
again.
did it.
Like, I know that these microphones are going to pick that up.
Oh well.
Because you said earlier, like, they're intermingled, you know, like you.
Sure.
So by that same logic, you consider them athletes because you say sport.
yeah,
Because he goes with it. Yeah.
I don't consider them. I don't consider it sport because I don't consider it athletics. So
I don't-
if you say they're
I don't
intermingled,
consider them sports just because.
yeah,
I consider them athletes because that goes along with sports. I consider it sport for a different reason.
Yeah.
Because it is a sport by
because
definition.
yeah, by definition,
see, but this is the argument that was what I'm making though is when you say because earlier you said they go hand in hand, right? Like you said that.
Sure.
What do you call the top people in the sport? They're considered athletes. If I don't consider it athletes, then I really can't say sport. You know what I mean?
You can because that's overarching the sport part. That's the definition of what it is. Athlete, it just is the bottom part that goes along with it sometimes because athletes are the people who play sports.
Yeah.
I mean, even if there weren't, take out all the athletes, all the people who play that, it's still a sport.
yeah. Going back
you know,
to
outside of that.
going back to definitions, the like official definition for athlete is a person who's proficient in sports or other forms of physical exercise. Which sports, if we look at this definition from sports, like we talked about, it's also dexterity, which is
It says sports
gaming.
and
No,
athletics.
In my
Yes.
mind, it is. I mean, we're gonna go in circles all night.
I mean, we're never
Yeah.
going to go.
We're
anywhere.
never
Just-
going. I don't think we're
Yeah.
ever going to actually agree because in
No.
my mind, it is not
Yeah.
athletes and it's not sports. It's
Yeah.
high level games. It's not
sports.
sports. I consider
That's what your physical sports are, high level games.
no, and I get that, but I consider it to be a mix between the athletic side of things, the mental side of things, with that. And I
Sure.
don't,
I get it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
see the
just
same
know
connection.
Sports
I guess.
aren't just fully physical.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. It's not actually a requirement at all.
So I got a question about this then. So we've obviously talked about how the Olympics, anything in the Olympics is officially considered a sport. I definitely think in the future we'll probably have esports in the Olympics. Would you consider it at that point?
I mean, they already have been
Do
in
they?
talks about it.
They've
I'd say
been
they're
talking.
in
They,
talks.
they
I guess
have
I
been
have
talking
heard
about
I mean,
it.
they've
But-
had X Games, Call of Duty at the X Games and stuff.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
like yeah. So would you consider at that point, since
What
the
is the next
Olympics,
extreme
anything in the
sports?
Olympics has to be considered a sport?
See, and in my mind, it's still not a sport. I
See,
don't
I
know.
think-
That's the thing. Like I can't.
The-
I can't call gaming a sport.
The
no matter
challenge,
what.
the challenge I have for that is
That's
in your,
your own block that you're
yeah,
gonna have to
you're
get
in
over.
Yeah,
your
that's
mind.
your
That
own
doesn't make
block.
it the truth of it. The truth of the matter is, by definition, sports and athlete apply to the esports scene. But just because you can't imagine that doesn't make it not true.
But
You
he
see what I'm
asked
saying?
for our opinion, so I'm giving my opinion.
I did.
That's true.
Mhm.
I'll give you that.
And that's
You can give your
fine.
plan. That's the whole point of this.
We were
I'm
just
just
discussing it.
saying, you know, I'm trying to kind of
We'll never. get someone to believe our side in this ever. So that's not the point.
Because, like I said, you
won't change my mind. I won't change yours.
Yeah,
that's it.
I think that's basically what's going to come down to here. Because I get the money side when you brought that up. That's fine.
Yeah.
If they bring in a ton of money, then let them make a ton of money. That's exactly how it should be. I mean, that's why I said the WNBA and the NBA, they play the same game, but one makes significantly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. But one makes significantly more money than the other because it is better. And, so let the contracts show that one makes more money by paying them more. Now, that being said, I think that they're extremely overpaid because in my mind, no one should get $250 million to play a sport. But at the same time, if they're bringing in $1 billion, like in jersey sales and ad revenue and all this different stuff, then obviously it's worth it because it's a business. You're in it to make money. So when you brought up the money side of things, that's why I'm completely on board. The only difference we have is I don't consider it to be a sport. I think which just like basketball, it's a game, but one requires a lot more athletic prowess than the other.
Physical, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. That's your determination between everything. Is your physical prowess.
Yes.
Although dexterity is physical as well.
And I get that, but I think more like, you get what I'm saying.
Big man muscles.
Yes.
That's what you're thinking.
Until you look at Rodrigo Blankenship or whatever his name is for the Colts. Is either punter or kicker?
Yeah, he's a kicker because he's from Georgia.
The super nerdy looking dude. I love that him and DK Metcalf can play the same sport professionally. That's so funny to me.
Yeah. I just think like Olympics, like, what is archery? Requires no physical prowess. You pull back a string, that's it.
See, that does, though, because, I mean, you get resistance and you got to hold it steady.
Yes.
I mean, you're pulling back 80. You're pulling back 80 pounds of resistance, and you got to be able to hold it and keep it ready.
Hand.
Yeah.
Eye, finger, hand.
It's true.
There's a huge difference between pulling back
there
80.
Actually is
80
not a difference.
You don't think there's a difference between pulling back 80 pounds of a draw resistance on a bow versus flicking your wrist to shoot somebody?
Hold that for what? They hold it for 30 seconds at longest, probably, right? Someone does this for 8 to 10 hours a day. Okay, they literally have to have surgery on their hands because they do it so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I stream for 6 to 8 hours every night.
Physical effort.
Yeah.
We're never gonna go anywhere.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
We should probably just end it.
Yeah. I don't think we're ever gonna actually agree. So
no, we won't.
We're just gonna call it here then.
Though.
Sure.
I'm down. I think it's an interesting conversation. It's something that's going to be very huge later on.
Oh yeah, it was a good conversation. I just don't think we're ever going to agree on what the definition of it is. I guess.
That's all right.
And you asked for opinions. That was
it's just a discussion.
Good discussion though, for sure.
It was good.